In the sweltering heat of a restless Sahel morning, the motorcade of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader of Burkina Faso, cut through the dust like a blade. A convoy of determination, moving steadily toward a destiny still undefined, but then everything halted. In the middle of the road stood a child. She was no older than 10, barefoot, covered in dust, and staring into the eyes of the man who led a revolution. That child, unknown to the world, would change the fate of a nation. Her name was Hope. Just days before this encounter, intelligence services were buzzing with chatter about a potential assassination attempt. Foreign mercenaries, well-trained and well-paid, had crossed the border, disguised as aid workers. Their mission: eliminate the man who dared challenge foreign domination, and unite the people under a sovereign banner. But what no intelligence agency could predict was the human element: intuition, fate, and a child's silent scream against the chaos of war. Scene transition. Hope's warning. Captain Traoré's convoy had barely slowed when the girl raised a trembling hand and pointed toward the trees. The gesture was simple, almost innocent, but it sent shivers down the spines of the elite soldiers guarding the leader. Seconds later, a flash of claymore mine detonated just meters from the road, followed by the rattling echo of gunfire from the underbrush. The trap was real. The ambush was underway. But thanks to Hope's warning, they were ready. The elite forces of Burkina Faso counterattacked with precision. The firefight was brutal and swift. 3 foreign operatives were killed, 2 were captured. The convoy survived. And the girl who stood in the road, she had vanished. But Captain Traoré would not let her disappear into legend. He ordered his best men to find the girl who had saved his life. For 3 days they searched, and finally found her hiding in the ruins of an old colonial outpost, surviving on river water and wild berries. Hope didn't speak. Not at first, but when she finally did, she spoke of seeing white men hiding in the trees with long black eyes, a child's way of describing sniper rifles. Her father, she said, had been killed by men who smiled, but had cold hearts. She had seen them near the village before. She recognized the smell of blood. Traoré brought her to Ouagadougou himself, not as a witness, not as a tool of propaganda, but as a symbol. The young girl, whose name he decided to keep as Hope, was quietly adopted by the captain. She received medical care, schooling, and security. But more than that, she became part of the revolution's soul, the confessions of the captured. The 2 captured operatives were interrogated by Burkina Faso's counterintelligence unit. What they revealed stunned the region. American-accented French, encrypted communications with a base in Côte d'Ivoire, and payments routed through shadow companies in Dubai and Warsaw. Their orders had come through a network with ties to certain factions in the U.S. intelligence community, rogue elements seeking to destabilize African governments resistant to foreign control of strategic resources. Captain Traoré released a statement that shook global media. "This attempt on my life is not just about me. It is about our refusal to be slaves. It is about Africa rising. And it is about those who fear our rise." Across Africa, the incident sparked a new wave of solidarity. Mali, Niger, and Guinea issued statements of support. The African Union was forced to hold an emergency session. Russian and Chinese media called it an act of Western subversion. The United Nations, caught between powers, said nothing. But among the people of Burkina Faso, the story wasn't about geopolitics or intelligence games. It was about a little girl. A girl who stood in the road and stopped death. What is the cost of a single act of courage? Hope became more than a name. She became a message. A mural of her now stands in the center of Ouagadougou, a young girl with her hand raised, palm open, facing a storm. Beneath it are the words, "One gesture can save a nation." Hope continues to live under the protection of the Presidential Guard. She studies history, learns languages, and dreams of becoming a doctor. Captain Traoré often refers to her not as his adopted daughter, but as his guardian angel. Conclusion: in a world torn by lies, conflict, and the ambitions of empires, sometimes the purest truths come from the smallest voices. Sometimes history doesn't march, it halts, stares, and listens. The road to freedom is long. But on that road, a child once stood and refused to move. Her name was Hope.